Hello and welcome to the new episode of the Meeples Corner weekly news. Before we start looking at all the new games we have received this week, two news regarding online adaptation of board games. The first news is about The King's Dilemma. The publisher Horrible Guild has announced yesterday that the game is now available to play on Tabletopia. You still need one physical copy of the game to play it, but at least it looks like a very easy way to play the game online, which was before I think only available to play if you used some self-made Google Sheets. So this is definitely an easier way to play the game. And they also made the shorter Kings of Dilemma demo available on Tabletopia, so you can try out the game without having the physical copy. But it's just a short demo of the game, but it should be enough to give you a taste of it and see if you like it. And then the second digital adaptation is the release of Fury of Dracula on Steam yesterday. That's definitely something that looks quite interesting. Is the one versus many game where one player plays Dracula trying to escape from Van Helsing and his crew of vampire hunters. And yeah, available on Steam now, so maybe something you can try out during lockdown. And that's for the news. Now to the new games. As you can see, it's a pretty big stack this week, and we start with a small game from Board Game Hub. It's Tranquility. It's a cooperative card game where you try to explore the sea between islands to bring your boat safely home. And the twist for the game is that you're not allowed to talk during the game. And as you can see, really nice artwork. A small compact box, and it's for 1 to 5 players. Apparently playing time is around 20 minutes, so that's maybe something for the family. Then we have 3 new releases from Renegade. The first one is the West Kingdom Tomb Saga, which is a campaign box for the West Kingdom games. You can play all 3 of them with these little expansion in a campaign mode. And it also includes the solitaire rules for all 3 games, so if you have them with this, you can play them in a solo mode, which is quite nice at the moment. Then we have the final game of the West Kingdom trilogy, is the Viscounts of West Kingdom. That's available now. And for all fans of the Clang deck building game, we have the newest expansion. That's the Adventuring Party, that includes 6 different characters that will basically you can use them to replace the traditional starting characters in the game. They call it asymmetric because they're all different setups and different abilities, so every character will play slightly different. That came in yesterday from Lucky Duck Games. It's Chronicles of Crime 1400. It's building on the successful Chronicle of Crime game, and the very good app is just cases set in medieval Paris. So very interesting background. It has nice artwork, and for everyone who already played Chronicles of Crimes, that should be no problem to get into this. So that's available, and like the Chronicles of Crime games, I think it's 22 or 23 pounds, so that's really good value for what you get out of it. And then we have a new dinosaur game from Pandasaurus. It's God Loves Dinosaurs. It's where as a god you try to set up an environment that allows dinosaurs to thrive in it. Nice little components. Reminds me a bit of Evolution, but with a slightly more funny take on it. So and it has, as you can see, dinosaur meeples. So what else can you ask for in a board game? Then we have from WizKids, we have a big heavy box. I'm never sure how to pronounce this correctly, but I think it's Sidereal Confluence. It's a massive trading and negotiation game for 4 to 9 players. Very popular with people who are into heavier games. I think the problem is the player count, which is not ideal at the moment. But as with all WizKids games, you never know how long they stay in stock and how long they will be available. So if you're interested in this, then I think it's a good time to get it, and maybe hope that around Christmas we should be able to meet with friends again, and then that's a good time to try this out. Good. And the last game is another big box game, but not as heavy as the last one. It's the Guildmaster game I talked about last week. It's a game where you are the leader of a guild of adventurers in a fantasy city, out to get the most fame and fortunes for your guild. And it's a programming game where you send out your adventurers on different quests every turn, and you reprogram your actions. And it's always an interesting mechanism. So these were the 9 new games in total for this week. Next week we will get a few interesting games in. We're still waiting for the delivery from DLP Games. They are always a bit slower this time of the year when they have to handle all the orders for the autumn releases. So hopefully we will get the order delivered soon, but we don't know exactly when at the moment. But we will get another interesting new game from Per Sylvester. It's called Polynesia, and it's a network building game published by Ludonova, the Spanish board game publisher. That's coming next week, and we will also get the expansion map, which allows you to have a different setup to build your island network. The next new game we will get is Pacific Rails. That's a worker placement game set in 1862 in America, and the players are companies trying to build a railroad network connecting the east and the west coast in America. And we have another new game from Lucky Duck Games, the publishers of Chronicles of Crime, is Court of Miracles. That's an area control bluffing game set in Paris, and you are trying to be the penniless king who rules the Court of Miracles. And that's basically the Guild of Thieves in medieval Paris. And then we have an interesting game coming in for all the fans of the block games from Columbia Games. The game is called This War Without an Enemy, and it's from Nuts Publishing. It's a 2-player block-based historic game set in the British English Civil War, and really nice artwork compared to the Columbia games, the usual ones. And I really like the block games because you get a fog of war in a board game that's normally only possible in computer games. So that's one of the 4 new games coming in next week. And we also added a bunch of new pre-orders to the website. One of the interesting ones is a game from Hans and Glück and Seaman Games. It's called Paleo, and it's a co-op adventure game set in the Stone Ages, where you are the leader of a tribe or a group of Stone Age people living in a cave, and you trying to go out and collect as many resources and food to keep your people in the cave alive. Very nice components, very nice artwork, so That's for me, it was something very unusual coming from Hans and Glück, but something that caught my attention. And another surprise was the Quacks of Quedlinburg big box coming from Schmidt-Spiele. It's essentially a larger box of the game, including the first expansion, the Herb Witches. But it's slightly cheaper than buying them both separately, and also the base game and the expansion are usually not available at the same time, so that's a good chance for everyone who hasn't bought them yet to get them both in one box. Then we put up the pre-order for Decent Legends of the Dark, the new massive fantasy game from Fantasy Flight Games. It won't be out before May, but I put up the pre-orders now so we can get a better feeling for the numbers we need, because there were some problems with the stock lately with Fantasy Flight Games, so the earlier I get my pre-orders sorted, the better, and also safer for you to make sure that you get a copy. And then just a quick update in regards to one very popular board game, the first game of the new company started by Peter Eckert in Germany. It's Renature. Shut Up and Sit Down released their review on Wednesday, and since then it become very popular, and we have received lots and lots of pre-orders. I managed to raise our stock allocation, so at the moment we're still fine, and we still have a few copies left to pre-order. And I talked to the UK distributor, and they are still hoping for the game to come in late November, but it should be available before Christmas. So that's good news for this one. Unfortunately, the second game coming from Germany, Pegasus, the Hansa Teutoninger big box, that's a bit of a delay at the moment. So at the moment we're looking for early December, but it's getting pushed back every time I ask about it, so hopefully this one will also make it before Christmas, but we don't know for sure yet. Yeah, that's all I have at the moment. As always, I put all the interesting links in the description for the video. If you have any questions, leave a comment or send me a message on Facebook or an email, and we see you next week. Bye.